Content warnings for this video will include the mistreatment of animals, including medical neglect and animal death. Please proceed with caution. Everything discussed within this video is alleged and should be considered either the opinion of myself or the people I am sourcing. Nothing has been proven in a court of law. The world is just full of really weird animals that do things that could be considered pretty miraculous to people who don't know the science behind the things that happen with these animals. Like hermaphroditic animals like sea slugs who are able to become pregnant and impregnate others with functioning male and female organs. Or clownfish where the male will change its sex to female when the dominant female passes away. Hyenas, another weird one, where both male and females have a phallus, and kangaroos have 3 vaginas. These are all actually pretty tame examples of the fascinating and strange things that animals can do. Don't even get me started on like what baby koalas eat. So when an aquarium in North Carolina announced that their lone female stingray was suddenly pregnant, I didn't really bat an eye because why not? Weirder things happen in nature all the time. But it turns out this wasn't just a fantastical case of parthenogenesis, but maybe something a little more sinister. Hey there, I'm here to interrupt your regularly scheduled entertainment. In February of 2024, the Aquarium and Shark Lab by Team ECCO announced that their lone female stingray named Charlotte was pregnant. This shocked everyone who really cared for marine biology, as the ray was kept in an enclosure with only male sharks, but no other stingrays. This notably caused quite the media frenzy when the announcement went viral on social media, and later was reported on by mainstream news outlets.
The $64,000 question, who's the daddy?
Because the first theory was that the stingray could have possibly been pregnant by one of the male sharks in the tank due to alleged wounds on the ray that could have indicated that the sharks had attempted to mate with her.
But there's another far less likely theory. 2 male sharks that were placed in the tank. This is Mo and this is Larry. Staff found bites on Charlotte, and male sharks tend to bite during mating.
While a fun idea in theory, hybrid animals are always pretty fascinating to people as it gives us kind of this feeling of living in science fiction, it seems, this theory wasn't possible due to the different genetic makeups of these 2 species being completely incompatible. Another theory for how Charlotte had become pregnant was the possibility that she could have been storing semen from males that she had previously been exposed to, as it's possible for some rays to store semen up to 4 years, although most scientific articles I'm reading state that 1 year is about the average. Team ECCO had denied this possibility, as they stated that Charlotte had not been exposed to any male stingrays within the aquarium for the 8 years or so that she had been in captivity. The last and most probable theory behind Charlotte's pregnancy was something called parthenogenesis, a phenomenon in which an animal is able to reproduce asexually, meaning essentially cloning themselves. The most famous example of this is actually a species of lizard, known for having no males within their species at all, and only relying on parthenogenesis for reproduction. While a lot of species are actually capable of this feat, a lot of scientists think that this is caused by a stressful environment, and that it's the animal's attempt to continue their gene line when no males can be found. If this would have been the case for Charlotte, she would have been the first recorded instance of this happening to a captive stingray of her particular species. Regardless of how she was pregnant, people following along with her story were excited to see the outcome. Would this miracle take the form of a scientific impossible anomaly, the shark-ray hybrid, or a self-made clone from parthenogenesis, affectionately referred to as Stingray Jesus? When the announcement first came out in February, everyone was under the impression that Charlotte would have her pups within a week or so, since Stingray's gestation is about 3 to 4 months on average, and Team ECCO had confessed that Charlotte had been pregnant for about 3 months prior to their announcement. But as the months continued to tick by with no updates on her pups, people's wonder and curiosity began to turn into skepticism, and as the skepticism grew, people began to look more into the aquarium, their history, and the story they were telling about Charlotte. Before we get too far into the story of Charlotte, who is Team ECCO? The ECCO in the name Team ECCO is actually an acronym standing for Educating Children to Care for the Ocean. Team ECCO Aquarium and Shark Lab is an unaccredited aquarium and research facility located in Hendersonville, North Carolina, in the United States. Listed on their website as a 501c3 charity, they accept sponsors, donors, and volunteers to help keep their operation running. They claim that in 2021, they were seeing about 10,000 visitors annually. Their website also says that they are the only inland marine research center in the area, ranging from West North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, and eastern Tennessee. They teach things like fish identification, climate change and its impacts, ocean biodiversity, and they also offer specialized curriculum for Scout badges. Team ECCO also boasts about networking with a variety of websites for marine biology, like the Riverbanks Zoo and Odyssey Aquarium. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by networking in this instance, though, since that could be things like sharing research information or just exchanging business cards at a conference. They also claim to use student interns and volunteers in the daily care and handling of their animals, even on the days that the aquarium is not open for the general public because, quote, we are there dedicated to making sure that our animals are taken care of. Which is like an awfully weird thing to like pinpoint on their website in my opinion, but we'll get into that. The first location for Team ECCO actually opened in 2009 with donated materials, and the current location has been open since 2011. They were previously known as the Team ECCO Ocean Center, but they've since rebranded to the Team ECCO Aquarium and Shark Lab in 2018. Today, they offer a variety of classes for children and adults alike, boasting more than 4,000 students in 2021. They offer demonstrations to the guests that visit their facility, such as live feedings for the animals. Their previous claim to fame was a bamboo shark that had a parthenogenetic pup in 2018, citing that the Field Museum of Chicago had picked up their information in order to publish it in an article in 2022. And while I could be mistaken on this information here, I believe that this claim to fame, the parthenogenetic shark pup in 2018, is actually why they rebranded that same year in order to be the Team ECCO Aquarium and Shark Lab. Finally, their website also states that they send teams out from their aquarium on research trips to the Bahamas, Florida Keys, and other areas to research things like manatees, mangroves, sharks, reefs, and other marine life in water environments. Team ECCO was started by Brenda Raymer, an enthusiast with a dream, starting the concept in her kitchen apparently. Previously an elementary school teacher in the public school system, she quit her job teaching and went on to volunteer for a nonprofit ocean awareness group called Oceans of Youth. She later used her connections as a previous elementary school teacher to contact the principal of Hendersonville Elementary School and convinced him to let her lead a field trip down to Crystal Rivers, Florida, to examine and research the manatees and watershed.
Welcome back, everyone. We're enjoying our zip trip to Rutherfordton, but just up the street in Hendersonville, there's an amazing facility. It's Team ECCO Aquarium, and I have with me, I guess I would say the curator.
The curator.
How about
founder,
that, Brenda Raymer? Tell me a little bit about Team ECCO. Tell me about your organization.
Absolutely. Team ECCO is a nonprofit based, grassroots based here. I was a school teacher many years ago and decided to leave working for the state and create my own foundation where I could bring the ocean to the children of Western North Carolina.
And what's the idea behind this? Why? Because it's such a diverse culture of animals in North Carolina in the southeast, or how'd you get involved in this?
I got involved in it because as a teacher I would start doing little surveys and realize that 65% or more of our children in Western North Carolina never see the ocean.
That's amazing.
So I thought, how do I fix that? How can I bring the ocean to them if they can't get to it?
According to her LinkedIn profile, Brenda has a master's in education degree with a focus on special education and visually impaired. It also says that she has a bachelor's of science in education degree as well. She had worked in the public education system for almost 10 years prior to switching career paths to run her aquarium. Curiously to note, her profile does not actually list any formal degrees in marine biology. Not to be confused, her bachelor's of science in education is not actually like a science degree. It's still an education degree, basically letting her be a teacher, right? It pretty much just means that while at school, instead of focusing on humanities during her studies, which would be things like critical thinking and analysis, she instead focused on like more STEM side of things, with her courses dealing more in logic and research. That being said, she does seem to have some certifications from the American Meteorology Society, the Reef Environmental Education Foundation, and something just listed as the North Carolina Environmental Education Site. Since I'm already this deep into research, I looked into what you would need in order to get one of these certifications, and for the most part, it looks like just needing to provide documentation that you've completed some prerequisite activities according to what each organization needs. Like, for example, the North Carolina Environmental Education Program requires you to go to certain locations in person to participate in research, and the Meteorology Society requires grade school teachers to complete a couple of classes or prove that they hold a degree in the related science field. Basically, being an elementary school teacher who takes frequent field trips would have had enough documentation and prerequisite experience for these certifications that she'd earned. I'm not trying to, belittle her accomplishments with this way of describing the programs in any way, especially since this seems like a lot more paperwork than I would ever be willing to fill out. All I'm getting at with this is that despite the degree in education and her certifications, Brenda is still just an enthusiastic elementary school teacher with a love of marine studies and animal caregiving, but not actually a marine biologist herself, which is important for what unfortunately ends up happening with Charlotte the Stingray. The idea of Charlotte undergoing a parthenogenetic pregnancy was, at the time, the only explanation that had made sense, since Team ECCO had actually made headlines before in 2018 for one of the bamboo sharks having a pup through parthenogenesis. In an interview, Brenda stated that that particular bamboo shark had actually laid over 200 eggs over the course of her captivity, with only 5 of them developing into an embryo, and only 1 hatching into a live pup. However, this calls into question why, as this is an abnormal occurrence in general, but to happen 5 times to 1 shark? Was this truly a case of parthenogenesis as Brenda had claimed? Did they do genetic testing on this bamboo shark pup to see if that was the case? And according to some experts on parthenogenesis in animals, as I stated before, this phenomenon can be a sign of stress and poor environment for the animal. I'm not the only one seeming to question the frequency in which Team ECCO reports a parthenogenic shark egg, with them announcing that one of their bamboo sharks had actually laid a couple of eggs in April that could be viable. And from, the name of the shark, I think it's the same one that had previously had the 5 before. Despite this extensive research the Team ECCO Center has apparently done on sharks, with Shark Lab being right in their name, during the beginning stages of the media sensation revolving around Charlotte's miraculous pregnancy, Brenda had entertained the idea of the stingray being impregnated by the sharks, which raised a lot of red flags for a variety of legitimate marine biologists. Brenda had stated that her team could not assess the maturity rate of their 1-year-old bamboo sharks that they'd moved into the same tank as Charlotte. This is something that I, and many others, seem to feel that Brenda and her team should know, due to just how long they've been working with sharks and other similar sea life. She had gone on to say that after moving these sharks into the same tank as Charlotte, that a variety of bite marks started appearing on the stingray, ones that coincide with bite marks that female sharks would receive after a male had attempted to mate with her. Instead of being concerned about, shark attacks on this poor stingray, she instead immediately jumped to the conclusion that, yep, the sharks had bred her. The issue, however, with this line of thought is that sharks and stingrays are genetically incapable of producing hybrid offspring, no matter what, fantastical tales that anybody might have said to you. Similarly, on why a cat and a dog can never produce hybrid offspring. Assuming she was serious for a moment, Brenda treating shark-stingray hybrid as any kind of viable possibility showed her flaw in her knowledge of the species that she was caring for in her aquarium, and pulls into question what other forms of care are these animals lacking. What other things is she entertaining behind the scenes that are harmful to these animals? One of the things that could be harming the animals in her care might actually be her reliance on volunteers to staff the aquarium. In an interview called Meet Brenda Raymer, she actually stated that she allows children as young as 10 years old to be volunteers at the facility in order to help teach them valuable skills and responsibility and accountability as they learn to care for living creatures. How often do these kids mess up in their tasks that cause issues with the animals? As I said before, some scientists think that parthenogenesis is a result of the animal being in a prolonged stressful situation or environment. Could these young children volunteers be contributing factors to the stress that these animals are put under? There's actually a change.org petition going around that was made in order to try to shut down Team ECCO's aquarium that alleges that the minors on staff as volunteers suffer mistreatment while working there, and that some of the members of the staff also would just mistreat and neglect the animals, which had resulted in the death of some of them. And looking at some reviews on TripAdvisor also paints kind of a negative light of this aquarium. One review, left in 2018, cites that Brenda verbally berates her teenage staff during business hours, and they had watched Brenda not understand how to put together a snorkeling mask, and that she was bothering a breastfeeding mother for not covering herself. Another negative review said that they were actually kicked out of the aquarium because they brought along a crying toddler. And another review reiterates that Brenda tended to scream at and berate the children that volunteered for the facility. A review from 2019 says that the interior was like walking through a grandmother's trailer who just had a lot of fish tanks. In a more recent review from 2022, the visitor was concerned about the welfare of the animals after the staff didn't seem to know how to care for them. This visitor also pointed out just how young the staff was, noting that they looked way too young to even be in the roles that they were in. Most of the negative reviews cite the same things, that Brenda is rude to the children who volunteer for her, that she's rude to the guests that come into her aquarium, and that the aquarium itself is super tiny with bad lighting. One of these reviews stated that it was just about the size of their living room, allowing them just enough room to turn around the room and see everything that they had to offer. Some of these reviews also say that they felt misled about the size of the aquarium and the amount of fish that they had based on the information plastered all over the website. And I've seen people on TikTok just generally say that Team ECCO Aquarium reminded them a lot of the Tiger King Zoo. And as all argumentative type people tend to do, Brenda attempted some kind of damage control by trying to argue and correct people in the review's comments, which never really ends well, as one of the biggest complaints through the lowest starred reviews was just how rude she was and how people shouldn't support her facility while she was still in charge. Now, with the knowledge that Brenda is not a marine biologist, but rather just a fish tank enthusiast who quit her job as an elementary school teacher in order to open her own aquarium, and she proceeds to staff her, aquarium with children as young as 10 years old, all while being rude to her children volunteers and visitors to her establishment. I should also mention, if it's not obvious, that she isn't a vet, and neither are any of the teenagers on her staff.
Alright, hello everyone, my name is Kinsley, and then with me I have Mr. Jacob, who is ultrasounding Miss Charlotte this afternoon, and then holding the ultrasound machine is Miss Natalie. She is helping us look out for some movement. So basically what we are doing is running our probe all along Miss Charlotte's back so that we can try and see if we can see any movement in there. We did see some movement already, but basically the process is we kind of lift her up a little bit as best as we can, and then Jacob, if you want to go ahead and run it on her back a little bit. Basically all we do. It kind of feels a little bit weird to her, which is why she kind of flaps a little bit, but anything that vibrates would kind of feel weird to you. But Miss Charlotte is being very, very good. And still no babies. That is our update for today.
More time ticked on and no new notable updates regarding Charlotte's pregnancy, but apparently, behind the scenes, dozens of professional marine biologists were begging Brenda to get Charlotte reevaluated by a professional veterinarian, as it was obvious to them that something was very wrong with the stingray. Brushing off the concerns of those more experienced in the field, Brenda and her team would make excuses for the lack of updates concerning Charlotte, which the most notorious one to me being that they didn't have a definitive timeline of Charlotte's pregnancy because there was no way to tell when she would give birth because of how different parthenogenetic pregnancies are from normal pregnancies.
Hello from the aquarium. With this Charlotte update, we are answering some of your frequently asked questions. Charlotte is carrying one pup for sure. See the attached previously posted ultrasound clip. Charlotte's pregnancy is a unique situation. There is no set precedent on how long a parthenogenetic pregnancy is in this species. Charlotte is the first known documented California round stingray to do parthenogenesis in captivity. The data we are collecting will be shared with interested scientists in aquariums around the world, and all of the DNA testing will be completed by the Field Museum in Chicago. After Charlotte gives birth, the offspring will be separated into a nursery tank. This tank is set to the same environmental parameters as Charlotte's current home. The offspring will be separated to allow for careful observation by aquarium staff. Charlotte is still active, feeding well, and interacting with our divers. Thank you for your patience and support in this very long process.
I thought that this point was a little off because you literally have the whole marine biology community breathing down your neck to let a trained and experienced vet come and examine the stingray, a medical professional that could no doubt help determine more about this anomaly. I forgot to add this in the script, but during the height of all these marine biologists begging Brenda to let a vet examine Charlotte the stingray, she had actually claimed that a vet had looked over Charlotte, and that's how they confirmed that she was pregnant. This claim will circle around back later, so just keep it in the back of your mind when I get to the news interview section. Editing Finn here, I missed something, as I am prone to do, but during the height of the ever-changing story revolving around Charlotte's pregnancy, and people starting to really question and take a second look at the story and the aquarium and Brenda herself, they had started actually blocking people criticizing them on social media, including scientists. Additionally, when reporters came around to interview people at the aquarium and they didn't like the interview questions or whatever, they started calling the police on the reporters.
Police Department, Clippy. I'm calling from Team ECCO Aquarium and Shark Lab. We have a news reporter harassing our guests outside of our doors. I don't know if there's anything you guys can do about that. But they're harassing our guests, and I don't know if you can send an officer down just to make sure everybody's safe out there. But do you know what news group it's with? NPR. Yes, NPR. She has a big purple microphone. You won't miss her.
All right. And do you know what her name is?
No, I do not. I did not get her name. We also have young interns, volunteers here at the aquarium that don't need to see this or be involved with her. So
that's fine. And can you tell me what she looks like? Is she a white female, black female?
She's a white female in a white T-shirt, and she has her microphone and headphones on right now. She has red hair.
All right. All right, I will get somebody started that way, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All of this to say is that fairly early on into the situation, Brenda knew that something was wrong, but she was capitalizing on the concept of this miraculous pregnancy as opposed to actually taking care of the stingray.
Good evening, everyone. Charlotte update for February 21st. As you can see, there is a handprint on the tank from all of her visitors today. Everyone loved seeing Miss Charlotte. She's still eating normal. She's swinging back around here to say hello. But she ate shrimp, silver sides, and some scallops today for Miss Kinsley when she got in the tank. And there goes Mr. Mill laying right on top of her. Silly fish. Good morning, everyone. There's Miss Charlotte. She is having a Sunday breakfast swim, showing off all of her moves. She found a big piece, huh? Good girl, Miss Charlotte. As you can see, she still has her hump, and she is very hungry this morning. Yes, that is the update on Miss Charlotte. But Miss Charlotte is resting for the night. She's kind of hanging out with her big pooch because we still do not have any pups yet. Everyone's kind of helping Miss Charlotte settle down. We have Larry right here. And then we have Miss Ipa, and of course her Domino damsel friend. Miss Charlotte ate very well today, and she was very good with guests. She loved to meet them up against the glass. Just an overall very positive day for Miss Charlotte, and we are still very patiently awaiting these pups, hopefully really soon. Huh, Miss Charlotte?
Anyway, this all actually ended up being a moot point anyway, because in May, Team ECCO announced that Charlotte was, quote, no longer pregnant because she had a rare reproductive disease. This phrasing of no longer pregnant is a curious way to phrase this shift in her health, as it leads things to be a little more up to interpretation regarding the reporting of the situation. Was she no longer pregnant because the pups died due to this disease, or was she no longer pregnant because their initial diagnosis of pregnant was no longer correct? This remains a mystery for now, as Team ECCO has not made any statements in regards to any autopsies of the stingray. And when you look up like news interviews, some state that, she lost her pups, and other ones say she was never pregnant to begin with. Regardless, the ruse couldn't go on forever, so the information that Charlotte was actually just sick, not pregnant, sparked a lot of buzz on social media in regards to the ethics associated with unaccredited institutions versus state-run facilities. that stuck with mandates and procedures. Many onlookers and marine biologists who were in contact with Brenda all seemed to think that this reproductive disease that Charlotte had contracted could have been treated if handled soon enough, but there was something spurring Brenda to wanting to get attention for her little passion project. It's just unfortunate this case seemed to have completely backfired on her. As Charlotte's health worsened over the next couple of weeks after the announcement of her illness, Brenda tried her best to do damage control by claiming that Charlotte was lively, active, and doing fine, all while banning visitors from recording within the facility and even closing seemingly at random. But due to not gaining proper medical care in a timely manner for her disease, Team ECCO made the statement on June 30th that Charlotte the Stingray had unfortunately passed away. This news had saddened thousands who began to follow along with Charlotte's story, and angered just about as many people who had been doing their own research about Brenda, her claims, and her facility. When Brenda and her staff had initially discovered the swelling on the Stingray in September of 2023, Brenda had actually initially thought the swelling was due to cancer, according to emails sent to News 13 back in February. She claims that she had sent ultrasound pictures to a marine vet, and he was the one who confirmed that the images were eggs, and thusly Charlotte was pregnant. So in reality, a vet never actually saw Charlotte the Stingray, just a vet saw some pictures. That same vet was actually Dr. Rob Jones, a marine expert from Australia, who denies this interpretation of events. In a statement to News 13, Dr. Jones said he was sent the ultrasound images in January, months after Brenda had noticed the suspicious swelling. He said that he thought there could have been egg casings in the images and had suggested parthenogenesis since there was no males present in the tank. When Dr. Jones asked Brenda if she saw any movement on the ultrasounds done on Charlotte, he got no reply. Another marine expert named Larry Boyles made a comment in reference to Brenda's shark-ray hybrid idea, saying that the idea that a shark could be a parent was biologically ridiculous. At the time, I and others asked Brenda to stop saying that. Boyles actually has a lot to say about Brenda and her facility back in the beginning of June, shortly after the announcement of Charlotte's illness, with deeming the notion of her aquarium being a research lab as quote-unquote preposterous, and were misrepresenting themselves as being knowledgeable in the field when they weren't, saying that Brenda didn't need to pretend to be a scientist in order to teach and motivate children in the community. He shows emails between himself and Brenda from February, back during the initial announcement of Charlotte being pregnant, insisting to Brenda that the ray was actually sick and urging her to seek emergency care. These emails went unanswered. Boyles alludes to the reason Charlotte didn't get the treatment she needed was because of the virality of her possible pregnancy, saying, "I'm sure they were happy with the attention and the crowds they were getting." Since Charlotte's untimely death, there's actually been more eyes on Team ECCO now more than ever before, with swarms of negativity surrounding the facility, with, like I said, the Change.org petition going around to close the aquarium due to the animals there not getting the proper care. Marine experts are also calling for people to learn more about accredited versus unaccredited zoos and aquariums, and how unaccredited facilities, like Brenda's, do not have the same strict guidelines put in place for the quality of life for the animals and veterinary care as an accredited facility would. Unaccredited zoos and aquariums tend to be ran by hobbyists like Brenda. Sure, there is a certain level of love that goes into running a facility like this, but love, prayers, and the belief in miracles is not enough to care for other living creatures. They need someone who is knowledgeable and able to make hard decisions to let experts do their jobs and appreciate things from afar. As of scripting this, Brenda has refused statements and interviews in regards to Charlotte's untimely passing. We can only hope at this point, after this entire mess, that Brenda will at least put on a real expert for her staff, but with her behavior, according to reviews of the facility amounting to "she's always right" kind of mindset, I don't know if she would be able to handle someone else trying to tell her that she's doing something wrong in regards to caring for her animals. Will the viral backlash in regards to Charlotte's death be enough of a wake-up call for Brenda? I guess time will tell. As always, please be respectful in the comments. Did you know about this story? Were you following along on TikTok when it was super popular? If you did, where did you first learn about Charlotte? Like I said, I saw it on TikTok shortly after the pregnancy announcement, but I guess a lot of people were finding it through Facebook and Instagram and things like that. It's just a shame that this took on such a sad turn. I mean, I was hoping for, Stingray Jesus, but, shit happens. At least we have prehistoric horses being real. This video, like all of my content, is brought to you by Patreon, so thank you so much to Ippo, Alec, Ashley, Mel, and Clint for subscribing, and also thank you to the channel member, Megan May. If you want to support me, check out the links in the description. The description is also where you'll find a pastebin document with my sources. I'm going to try not to have like duplicates in there, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is Finn signing off. Until next time.
I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. 'Cause I can't move on till I let go.